For those with good taste.
Welcome back to another episode of FTWGT Weekly. It's your boy Lenny, joined again as always with my producer extraordinaire, Danny DeCane himself. Dante, how are you?
No, we're not doing that anymore.
Well, I did it.
No, we're cutting.
I did it. If you're doing it at home right now,
whoa.
Make sure to drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe down below. Thank you so much. Dante, I wanted to start here. You, I believe you went to your first WWE event this week?
Yes.
Right. You've done wrestling before with me.
Yes.
But smaller confines.
Again, just to clarify here, we went to a wrestling event before. I haven't actually wrestled with Lenny because that just sounds wild.
In smaller confines.
Yeah, no, that just sounds wild. No Diddy.
Yeah. I guess, first of all, what did you think of the experience?
I think it was cool, but I think the whole time I was comparing it to the other event we went to, and I think the other event was far more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to, like, I'm not informed with, like, the storylines and everything, so a lot of it was kind of over my head.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think that was as required for enjoyment on the other show.
No, well, I think the difference here is, and this is always my, like, when I do bigger wrestling events like WWE ones, I prefer going to pay-per-views because pay-per-views, you're getting the matches, right? Like,
Gotcha.
So even if you're not informed, and what you saw in the smaller venue, because I think did you go to NXT or did you go to?
It was ROH.
Yeah, okay, you went to the ROH one, which was a really good card in general. But first of all, I think more independent wrestling for a viewer that's not as aware, and I'm not like a big ROH follower either. Like I knew the characters, but like I didn't follow the storylines. But like pay-per-views in general, like events like that are more predicated to just like you watch the wrestling, right?
Yeah.
So even if you don't know all the storylines going around, if it's a good match, you can surmise that it's a good match without all the other context. Whereas you go to like a Raw or a SmackDown, in my experience, it's tougher because there's less wrestling. The wrestling's not as good usually. Granted, we were fortunate to get a couple of pretty solid matches and we saw a double taping of Raw, which was interesting in itself.
Is that not how they normally do it?
No, it's normally live on a week-to-week basis. More recently, they've been doing, because of holidays, these back-to-back tapings so that they can give their talent time off. Yeah, so like they're going to have like 10 days off, which is crazy as like a person who's grown up on wrestling, because growing up and way before even I was ever alive or watching wrestling, these guys were working 330 days out of 365 of the year. Like they weren't getting 10 days off and shit like that. Like they were doing televised and house shows, which would be untelevised all the way up until whatever the holiday is, basically. So it's kind of a new era in that regards for like work-life balance, which is cool. Like I'm happy for those guys. But it's definitely a different experience. And it even led to us, like, I thought we were getting there. I assumed, because the ticket said like 6:30, I think, when Matt sent me a picture of it. And I was like, okay, well, like actual Raw doesn't start till 8. They'll probably do some like untelevised stuff before we get there. And then we're walking in and I hear CM Punk like talking and I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, he's way too big to just be like, maybe he's greeting the crowd before the show. But then I heard like it kept going and like the stuff he was talking about. I was like, well, this is like really weird. Like, and we get in there. I'm like, well, the show's already started and it's not even 8:00 yet. Like that really threw me off. But yeah, I think the tough thing is like, it's a lot of dialogue and it's a lot of storyline stuff. And if you're just thrown in the middle of a storyline, it's hard to be invested into that stuff.
Thankfully, I had Matt filling me in for a good amount of it, but like,
yeah, which you never know. Like some of that could be
exactly. I think I've known him long enough now to be able to tell when he's being a little facetious. But even then, like sometimes I got thrown off, and I was like, "Wait, really?" And he's
like he did know a decent amount. Like he's definitely been, and it's probably like he knew he was going to this too.
It's funny too because like he started off making it sound like he knew nothing. Because like we sat down, we're sitting there, you know, like and. You know, the show's like already going on, and he like leans over to me and tells me, he's like, it's like he was like, it's like when you take your kid to like some show and it's something they're into that you're not as into, and you got to do like a bunch of research so that you're informed. He was like, this is like that, and I was like, wait, so you're saying like Lenny's your kid?
It's fair, and it's probably a fair assessment of the overall thing. But at the same time, Matt specifically is like, a wrestling audience is perfect for a person like Matt.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
the people watching.
Yeah, like, and just being able to like it's not shamed upon to just like throw out like random things into the ether, you know? Like you can kind of just say whatever as a fan, and it is what it is. And like that was perfect for Matt.
Yeah.
So he's able to kind of blend into that situation, I think, a lot better. I think the biggest downer to the entire experience, and you'll probably agree with me. Well, first of all, like I just don't like if I go to the Garden personally. Like when I go to wrestling events at the Garden, we had really good seats. Like we were pretty close, like perfect, like height. You know,
I always consider it a good seat if I can just actually watch the show and don't have to watch the monitor the whole time.
Yeah, and like we were in a perfect spot.
Yeah,
I prefer at the Garden to get club seats. Personally,
what is that?
So they're like slightly behind where we were, and it's like you have the club access, so you go up like the escalator, and like it's first of all, it's nice because you have your own bathrooms, you have your like less crowded bathrooms, you also have less crowded concessions, but more so the deciding thing for me getting tickets up there is the seats are padded and they're a bit bigger, so you have like I didn't have leg room. Like I actually felt bad like halfway through because I just bodied Tom and Matt for like their leg room.
Oh, I was man spreading.
Yeah, like I looked at like Tom's like knees crunched
so
in.
Like it's crazy, right? Because like the seats are so tight that I'm not a tall person by any means. I'm 5'8", but if I sat with my legs next to each other straight forward, I was literally jamming my knees in the back of the seat.
Me 6 feet tall. Like, the second I sat down, I was like, I forgot what this was like. Like I was like, there was a time I tried to stand up because this is why the experience sucked. Like the seat, you kind of deal with it. It is what it is, especially you get used to it.
It was settled, but then you have to keep getting up and getting down. Yeah.
The amount of people who needed to go to the fucking bathroom that drove me crazy. Like, or concessions or whatever. Like we had a guy double glizzy. That's crazy. That was the craziest part. The bathroom I could tolerate. Like little kids are going to need to go to the bathroom and their parents are going to have to get up to go with them. And like, I get that. But a man double glizzying during an event was insane. Like I watched this dude take down a full sausage and then get up 20 minutes later to go get another hot dog. Like, it was mind blowing. I was like, have some consideration for other people here, dude. Save yourself the second glizzy.
Bro, it was bad.
At first I was like, okay, not the biggest deal, but being there for 4 hours or whatever, like 3 hours, whatever it was, and I was happy because like the last like 45 minutes, I think people finally like were like, we're annoying people.
That's because we started not holding our words, or at least I.
Yeah. No, I definitely was like, we're getting up again. You know, here's this again. Like, you know, and I know that the people in front of us were dealing with that too.
Not as much as
but no, like we were definitely up like a ton. Yeah. And it like that took away, I think, some of the experience. And I know even like for Tom next to me, like it sucked because the guy next to him was like 6'4", and then he had the people in front of him too. So it's like if he didn't stand up, he couldn't see because he couldn't see over the guy. He's not tall, so like even when he stood up, sometimes like it was still like I can't really see exactly what's going on. So yeah, like that shit all kind of sucked. Versus like the other cool thing with going to like that ROH show is the pricing is a lot different too. Yeah. So like we were in like the third row on the floor for that, right? Like
for like a fraction of what we paid.
And on top of that, we were in like seats, like chairs, you know, steel chairs, not in like stadium seating. So like
it was definitely a lot more comfortable as far as like the chair itself. I mean, like not super comfortable chairs, but like still more comfortable. I think if you have the space was more.
Like the space is what makes all the difference in the world. Because even like, dude, like my feet got stepped on so many times, dude. From like, that might have annoyed me more than getting up and down. Yeah. Was like, dude, my feet, like, because like there's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
Like even like squeezing back, like I'm like into the people behind me trying to give space, and I still like I can't get out of the way because I'm too fucking big for like these people to get by. And like I'm doing the hands up when the ladies walking by because I was like I'm not
initially
not
like the first like 2 times, right? Like because I was sitting on the end, I would just get up and walk over to the stairs to give them room to get by.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I was like, no, I'm not going to make it more convenient for you to inconvenience me. So I literally just stood there and was like, figure out how to squeeze by.
Yeah. I see. I didn't. You just had to get by me. Yeah. Which was like only fucked me over because my feet just were stomped on over and over again. Okay, so we had one like I thought fantastic match. Like that tag team match was pretty great.
Yeah,
and like the title change, and I do think the difference between the experiences, like the crowd is great in Lowell, but it's like that place holds 2,500, 3,000 people, like nothing crazy. The energy, like in the Garden when you're there with 12,000 people,
the banter back and forth was great.
And like just like the crowd, like that tag match, like is like the perfectly built wrestling match where it's like you could just feel it building, and then like you get to the last 5 minutes and like the crowd is like electric, and like even if you're not a fan who watches every week, you can get caught up in like that, you know, like that feeling in the crowd, and then like the pop when it like is over, you know. So do you think you'll watch wrestling at all now that it's coming to Netflix?
I don't think so.
I don't get it, dude. Missing out, buddy.
I mean, so I feel like I can equate this to like my same feeling around like sports, right? Like I'm not a sports guy at all. We've said this before. I can enjoy my time when I'm at a game.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I'm going to go home and watch all the games.
The thing about it though is like sports, you have to care about the team specifically to become like a true fan of it, right? Well, like if you're a sports fan, you can throw on any game and kind of just like watch it, right?
Yeah.
But I think like the difference with wrestling and the beauty of wrestling is it's sports adjacent. So it's a physical competition, but because you can become invested in the storylines or specific characters, it builds that week to week watching that you don't necessarily get out of, you know, a hockey game or a basketball game where like they're superstar driven, but it's not like it's the athletic competition. That's the thing that got you into it. The other thing I think that's great about like WWE in particular, as far as the way content is concerned and more related to this podcast, right? Is it's something new every week. And it's not like all amazing, right? Like it's like a smorgasbord of different things when you watch wrestling. There's comedy, there's people who are great athletes, there's villains, like there's a million different things that are happening there. And like some of it can be for you, some of it can not be for you. But I think being on Netflix, the huge advantage for, I think where they'll be successful in drawing in a lot of new people is there's a million times you go on to streaming apps every week and you scroll through a million different things trying to find something to watch. And to know that like once a week, there's going to be 2.5 hours or 3 hours, not to mention when pay-per-views start going on there too, of like content that's just like, hey, I don't have anything to watch. Like, let me just kind of throw this on. And even if it plays in the background, like it's there, you know?
Yeah. I wonder how they're going to do that. Cause like, since they're doing it live, is it going to be something where like, if you miss it, you can run it back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's going to, cause I think their whole library is moving over there anyways. And I don't think it would make sense to Netflix to not want to give you the opportunity, which is also great because like, I don't watch wrestling live very much, especially because I don't have cable.
Yeah.
I follow mostly weekly wrestling through podcasts, like, and then I watch pay-per-views. So like, I see Twitter clips of like the best stuff, and like I'm like I'll watch the 3-minute promo or something that was really good from the show on there. But like the context I get for a lot of things is just through podcast material, because it's not like I have an on-demand source. And I don't like Peacock, I think adds them like 3 weeks later or something.
Gotcha.
But I'm not going to go watch.
Then it's not the topic of
like
discussion.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. But like if I got home and I'm going to bed at like 11:30 at night on a Monday, that's something that I'm just going to throw on. Yeah. Even if I fall asleep, like not the biggest deal, but like it's just something there for you to watch. And I think I'll probably end up watching more wrestling now because of that option. And I've never fallen out of fandom, but I've definitely it's like an appointment viewing for me for like events, like but not necessarily like weekly sit down.
I gotcha.
And watch, you know. So, cool. Would you do it again?
I mean, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you should like
ultimately like it was a little like disorienting, right? But like it was still a good time.
I think going to a pay-per-view is the way to go. The one thing on my bucket list that I haven't gone to yet, I'd like to go to a WrestleMania, but that's not really high up on my list because like I realize with a WrestleMania they do them in stadiums, and I'm not going to pay the money to get like
close enough
a seat. So like
it,
like you said, like then you're just watching on the monitor, and
which at that point I might as well be at home watching.
That's kind of my thought for like how uncomfortable seating is and shit like that. That I'd at that point, and like getting in and out of the stadium and all of that, I'd rather watch it on TV. It is nice, like the energy and being. It's that thing of like watching a movie with people you know. And
I
get you. Having that like stuff where you're the banter back and forth and feeding off the energy of everybody around you. Like that stuff's sick. Like I love that. But yeah, from a viewing experience, I'd rather just watch it at home. The one thing for wrestling that I've never gone to that I really want to go to is a Royal Rumble. Like,
I was just thinking that like I would love to go to one of those because I remember like we used to watch them here and like that was always very entertaining because like you said, it's just the constant like action. So like it's no dull moment. Yeah,
you're building up to every time somebody adds into the match and there's surprises and like there's always like an anticipation level. And again, that energy is always there. Building during something like that. Like I've gone to Survivor Series. I've been to SummerSlam. Like I've done their biggest events because when they've come to Boston, I've managed to go to them. And I've gone to several pay-per-views. But yeah, the Royal Rumble's one that I've just not gotten to go to. The last time they did one in a Royal Rumble in Boston was probably like 2011. And I think it was the year they did like a 40-man Royal Rumble maybe. I might be wrong on that, but like it was Alberto Del Rio, I think, won, and it was like 2011, and they haven't been back here for a Royal Rumble. I think the thing that sucks for us is the Garden's legendary, but the Garden's not big. Yeah, like for arenas, modern arenas, it's not like super big. So like for these big tentpole events, like the WWE wants to go to a stadium. Maybe they can
lock in Gillette. Oh,
the problem is it's January. Is when the Royal Rumble happens.
It's outside.
Yeah. So you're basically like now with the Rumble with WrestleMania. They're doing these in 50,000, 60,000 seat stadiums. So there's not really an option to come here for it. So like for me, if I was ever going to go to a
would they probably
Rumble,
do like Madison Square Garden or something like where we'd have
they
to go to
could do it there, but that's the same size as the Garden. So like,
it is? It's not bigger?
No, it's not much bigger. Oh, okay. It's not like significantly bigger by any means. I would end up probably having to go travel to like Florida if they were going to do one there, you know, like.
I mean, if it's in January around that time, I don't think flights are too crazy.
No, so it wouldn't be like that's the most real. Like I guess that's where I'm saying like that'd be the most realistic outcome. Yeah. But then I would run into that same issue I'm talking about with WrestleMania, where it would just be like, oh, I still have to spend a fuck ton for tickets because this, especially where the WWE is right now, like they've just been over the better part of like 4 years now on like an upward trajectory back into like they were always like the hardcore fans never left. But like
now they're starting to pick up more fans.
They've brought back in that casual fan base now.
Yeah.
And are relevant pop culture wise, not just like within their bubble. So it's almost like the Attitude Era was like everybody knew wrestling, like everybody knew Stone Cold Steve Austin. You knew WCW with like Hulk Hogan and like NWO and all that. You knew DX, like that was relevant to like outside of wrestling. And then for the better part of 20 years, it wasn't really popular to like the outside world, and now it's back to like that cultural relevance again, you know, and being like one of the first things weekly on Netflix, I think is going to make it even more prominent in that
because there might be more people that are just going to throw it on out of curiosity.
Yeah, that like that were, you know, were lapsed wrestling fans that grew up in the Attitude Era and loved wrestling, but they're not going to show up every week, like I was saying, to watch a live broadcast of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and unless there was some like huge name like The Rock was promoted or Stone Cold Steve Austin or these guys that were like they're familiar with are promoted for it. Even like the Cena's, Roman Reigns is at that level too. But once it's on Netflix, I just think it's going to be those people who just give it a shot because like I scrolled through for 20 minutes and didn't find something I was interested in. Let me just put this on.
It's going to be one of those things where it's convenient to watch again. Because you can watch it on your own time.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's jump into some more movie related stuff though, I suppose. Shall we?
We shall.
This is a quick one, but we talked about the movie Y2K last week. Check the video out if you haven't yet. Mason Gooding, who played what's her name's boyfriend, right? Announced that he is returning for Scream 7.
Okay.
Which is interesting only because that whole cast of 5 and 6 basically
is
had pulled out.
Yeah.
he's the first one to say he's coming back.
Yeah.
I also read that Mindy, which is his sister,
Yep.
would also potentially be returning.
Okay.
If she doesn't return, I have a sneaky suspicion that he's gonna, the beginning of the movie, like kill that they usually do. I could see him
being the first kill.
Yeah, if they didn't, because I don't understand where he would fit into the story without the rest of the characters. If you're moving on to a Sydney centered film where Melissa Barrera's character has a relationship to Sydney, and by proxy, like Jenny Ortega's character would as well. Sam is Melissa Barrera's character. I can't remember the Jenny Ortega's name.
You can't ask me to remember.
It's fine. Yeah, it's actually not important at all.
Yeah.
But if they're not involved, what is his relation to the story?
Yeah.
Other than, to me, be fodder to get killed. But then that would suck, because if you remember the end of 6, they just established the relationship between him and Jenny Ortega's character.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's very weird to have, if you were to kill him without her character being involved at all. Which goes back to my point of, why is he here? It feels to me like there's going to be a kill that takes place in town, and it would be him getting killed to set up the movie.
And then maybe it's like Jenny Ortega's character trying to figure it out.
No, I think she's not coming back.
Oh, she's not? Okay.
I mean, this definitely, in theory, opens up the door for these other characters to be back involved, but I think they did Melissa Barrera so badly that,
And I keep calling her Jenny because you do. It's Jenna, isn't it?
Sure.
Jenna Ortega.
Whatever. I'm sure she's okay with a Y being at the end of her name every now and again.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on. Are they going to bring back more of these characters? They've started. They're going to start filming in early 2025 for this. And just the year of the comebacks for OG horror. I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream both coming back. I feel like there's one other one I'm missing.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, I mean, you like Scream, so you would like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Right? Yeah, it's a slasher, and they both came out around the. I think Scream was 97, and I Know What You Did Last Summer was 98, possibly.
Okay.
And if you go back to you're not a big movie star person, as far as knowing I
was gonna say all the different. Right, I'm not a movie star.
Yeah, but in terms of knowing all the different actors and stuff like that. But when you go back and look at just the cover for I Know What You Did Last Summer, it's just every icon. It was just so well cast. It's Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ryan Phillippe, are just
I know 2 of those names.
All at the time were it people,
Yeah.
So it was just one of those movies, and then you get into the sequel and you bring in Brandy being involved, and it was just culturally it just had a lot of recognizable faces, and piggybacking off the Scream, which also had that same recognizable it faces of the time. So I think they've aged well. Both of those franchises aged pretty well. Obviously the advantage where an advantage disadvantage, because I think Scream greatly has exceeded expectations for being 6 movies in terms of quality across all 6 movies, where it's I Know What You Did Last Summer. There's 3 movies, but only 2 of them really count.
When did the third one come out?
The third one was years later, and it's none of the same cast.
So it almost feels like a whole different story.
Yeah.
It probably is a whole different story.
Yeah. It's it's the same story, but not the
same premise, but different story.
Yeah. So the first 2 are really the only one that are canon, so to speak, and I'm assuming that these will be built off of. Okay. So that is weird though, because I don't know what year I Still Know What You Did Last Summer came out, but it's got to be 2001, 2000 something. Years
later, yeah.
Actually, you don't have. Do you have IMDb up?
Yeah.
You can double check. It could have even been where it came out even before. They could have rushed that sequel.
97, 98.
Yes, they did. They
back to back, yeah.
So basically, that and Scream came out the same year, and then they were strike while the iron's hot, and just banged out a sequel.
Oh, and then it's coming back in 2025.
Yeah, that's what I said. The year of the return of these iconic slasher franchises.
I missed the whole year of the return. I just thought you meant like the return, like overall.
No, they're both filming right now, basically.
And for this one, Jennifer Love Hewitt's coming back, and we're getting Madeline Klein.
Yeah, Madeline Klein. There's actually the cast for the new I Know What You Did Last Summer is all pretty recognizable. You also have Sarah Michelle Gellar rumored to be making a comeback, which is weird because her character, I'm pretty sure, didn't live in the first movie.
Huh. Interesting.
I have the full trilogy on my Vudu.
Might peep.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, next up. The Oscars, like they're starting to be some like lists coming out of the people the movies proposed to be nominated for a lot of stuff. And I wanted to talk to you about one in particular. So this is the Oscars shortlist for Best Visual Effects.
Okay.
And I want to talk about it because we've seen pretty much all of these movies. So I want to get your take on it. There's only one I can't remember. Is Better Man, is that the Sebastian Stan movie?
No, that's different, man.
Okay, what is Better Man?
I don't know. That sounds familiar, though.
So the list goes as follows. Alien Romulus, Better Man.
I think Better Man was one I didn't want to see.
That's a recent release. Yeah. I know I didn't see it.
Oh, wait. I don't think that came out yet. That's the one with the monkey.
Oh, okay. And I don't want to see it. It comes out in January.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. So yeah, Alien Romulus, Better Man, Civil War, Deadpool and Wolverine, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Mufasa, Twisters, and Wicked.
I agree with all of it.
Yeah, and which one do you have as like, what are your front runners? Like, maybe give a couple of them. You don't have to narrow it down to one necessarily.
I think my front runners would probably be between Wicked and Dune.
So Dune Part 2 would definitely be a front runner for me. I think that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was, as far as visual effects, like all looked incredible.
I mean, that was a really good one, but I and again, maybe like a prisoner of the moment thing, but like I'm still thinking back to like my viewing of Wicked and like being like, wow, this looks really good for CGI. And then finding out later that they did all of that stuff, like, well, not all of it, but most of it practically. Like even like the scene where like they were like showing over like the field with all the different colored tulips, like they literally paid money to go out and grow those flowers.
Yeah.
To like set up that scene. Like they CGI'd as little as possible.
That stuff's all really impressive. I definitely agree. I don't think that Wicked like resonated with me in that regard for visuals. Like it does look phenomenal, don't get me wrong. And I think all of what you said is like 100% accurate. And I always appreciate when they use like
practical effects is like amazing.
Stuff. Yeah. But that's where like Dune Part 2, like
a lot of that was practical as well.
Yeah, like them, like they, like Zendaya was just talking about this on like Actors on Actors, the variety thing.
Yeah.
Where she was saying that like the scene of them kissing for the first time on the sand dune, she's like, everything you're seeing there is real. Like we filmed that, like all of the sand, everything in front of us, like that's all a real shot. Like none of that CGI. Like that stuff is super impressive. So yeah, I think Kingdom definitely should be included because if you're gonna say Better Man, then like Kingdom is the same type of CGI work, but significantly better. Not that I've seen Better Man, but like
I just know on, so we know what it looks like.
But like on scale, I just know you did way more of the same stuff with Kingdom.
Yeah.
So I was way more impressed by that. I think Twisters is an interesting one too.
I mean, it was definitely a really good movie.
Like practical again.
Yeah.
This type of special effects work that they had to do for that type of practical stuff, the planning that goes into like the stuff you can't control with that much wind and all of this. Like,
and I think with that final tornado, they like actually destroyed like part of a real city, right?
Yeah. That stuff's all super cool. Like I don't necessarily think that like Deadpool and Wolverine needs to be on this. I don't really think that anything.
I can't really remember anything being like visually impressive. Yeah, like great movie. Don't get me wrong, but like
doesn't stand out as a visual movie.
Yeah.
I would also say like pick one between Kingdom and Mufasa, just because along the same lines of like, there's not like
it's basically CGI animals, right? Like,
yeah. And I think Kingdom having to put humans into it as well, is more impressive than what they are going to do. And even the early reviews for Mufasa, and we can talk about this a little bit here, I guess. One of the other things I had written down was the Rotten Tomato scores have come out early Rotten Tomatoes scores for Mufasa.
Yeah.
And they have it at 58%. The original, the last Lion King, the other live action, was 51%.
So this is at least better.
And the original Lion King is at 92%.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's blowing it out of the water.
Like, you could almost add together the two of these
I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, but Mufasa's on the uptick.
Okay, 59.
It's currently at 60%.
Okay, good for them. Good for them. The one like review that I kind of read though was like the visuals look good, but they said that the
animals still look
the
dead.
Singing is like the tough part. The animal singing doesn't really work.
Gotcha.
And the only one we haven't talked about, but I stood out a lot for us at the time for visuals is Civil War. Like the cinematography for Civil War is one of the standout pieces of that movie.
That would be more cinematography though.
Yeah, not like it's not like visual effects necessarily, but there were some shot choices in Civil War.
It's very artistic in the way it was filmed.
Yeah, that like stand out to me as far as visuals. Was a movie that we talked about earlier in the year being very impressed by. But yeah, I think when you talk about visual effect, like that type of skim, you are thinking CGI and like these other things and how you make it look.
It's more like, it's less about the filming of it and more about like the set building and the whole visual setup.
Yeah. Versus like the shots that stood out in Civil War where it's like her sitting on sitting on the ground with the paint behind them on the wall and like the framing of it. Yeah. So maybe we'll look at the cinematography awards and see if that's up there for that.
It better be.
I would definitely like to see that get some credibility in a movie that I think has been pretty mixed reviews for the year, but the three of us came away pretty happy with, right?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know it was getting mixed reviews. I thought everybody loved it the way I did.
No. I mean, what's it at on Letterboxd now?
Looking at it now. Oh, 3.6.
So, I mean, above average.
Definitely above average, but a little lower than I thought I'd see it at.
No, we're definitely like, I've seen a couple of people that were like, that I follow on Twitter that were like, yeah, it's not that great. No, I don't have this like anywhere, but I did see an interview with Mikey Madsen, the girl from Anora.
Yeah.
She did that same Varieties actor on Actors, but she did it with Pamela Anderson.
Okay.
And they were talking about her having an intimacy like coordinator on set, and she chose not to have one.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
And she said that she filmed just exclusively with the male lead. I can't remember his name right now. And the director and the director's wife was the principal photographer, and they basically kept the set like contained like that. But I more so thought what she was talking about was interesting in the way that she decided for the character that she didn't want it, because like the character doesn't use like, it's not sex in terms of like passion. Like it's more of like she said it was like a suit of armor is like what sex in her body is for that character. And like, she didn't feel like she needed an intimacy coordinator. And like, furthermore, felt like it was almost working against
is the job of an intimacy coordinator to like protect you during shooting those
make
scenes,
you feel comfortable with everything that's going on from like a physical standpoint.
Gotcha.
And if
so
anything,
it almost would have dulled the performance if she
I think
it,
she just felt like it didn't feel authentic. And like she said, she spent so much, like she had created the character in her mind to what it was supposed to be, and spent so much time around like dancers and stuff like that, and understood like part of the role is like that, like
just being exposed,
like and not treating like being comfortable with your body, but also being like the idea of like it's all a defense, it's all a shield, like everything that character's built
like being
around
exposed
early.
without viewing it as a vulnerability.
Yeah. Like this is where she like that character is supposed to feel its safest, is by using that as like as her suit of armor. You know, like the vulnerability for that character isn't in the sex, it's in the emotional aspects of it. So she didn't need an intimacy character. And I just thought like, I love those variety. Like I've been watching like the whole new set of the variety actors on Actors that's out right now. That's really good.
I've watched a couple of them, but I definitely do want to watch more. I know the first one I watched was Anthony Mackie and the dude from Everybody Hates Chris.
Yeah. Okay.
And I found that one really interesting, mostly because I learned a lot of stuff about the actor from Everybody Hates Chris that I didn't know about. Like, First off, when he was talking, I didn't realize how deep his voice actually is. Like, that was one thing he touched on, where it was like, going from being a child actor to all of a sudden hitting puberty and like your voice drops, and it's like how he had to like work around that, and he ended up doing a lot of like voice acting roles to like
because people
carry
weren't
the transition.
associating with his face.
Yeah, he was like, until my body matched my voice, I did voice acting to kind of supplement that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting, like how those choices come to be.
Yeah, I've caught a lot of clips of different ones, like the Zendaya with Baby Girl, Nicole Kidman.
Oh yeah.
Theirs was good. And you had Ryan Reynolds with Andrew Garfield,
Yeah.
which is good. And then I've also been catching the Round Table is another one that they've been doing.
Variety as well.
I don't know if it's Variety, but maybe it's Hollywood Reporter or something like that.
Okay.
Is doing a round table where it's like 6 or 7 actors.
Yeah.
Around the table. So it was like Sebastian Stan. It was Karen Culkin. Domingo Sing Domingo.
Okay.
Whatever his name is. I can't remember his name right now. Fuck.
From
like the jacket.
the jacket.
Adrian Brody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But so like all pretty like big actors,
Yeah.
but like sitting at the table, like discussing the way they approach like auditions and like the fear of failure and coming up through acting and the way they view acting. And it's like crazy because they're talking to their peers, so they can talk in a different way than they would be talking to like an interviewer who doesn't do the things same way.
And I mean, that was kind of what I respected about like actors on actors, right? Is like they choose actors that are in very different lanes, and they end up having some really polarizing conversations, and I like it.
And it's just like you watching an actor be interested in like
how another actor's work. It humbles them.
Yeah, like them just like picking apart like, so like how do you get into the mindset of this, or like what's your viewpoint on this type of thing?
Yeah.
And they're able to ask from a different perspective than an interviewer would, so you get different answers, and they're more vulnerable in the way that they answer, I feel like.
I think the thing I appreciate about it a lot more too is like you get to realize that it's like, a lot of people glamorize acting as like, oh, you just get to go on TV and play around, and it's like they put it into a frame where you realize it is really hard work that they're putting into this.
And that was the roundtable thing was like most interested in, is like talking like Domingo was talking about like being like we're journeyman actors, like we didn't just get into this to be huge movie stars, like we're actually like we're like working actors. We're the ones who we pick like roles,
do
that
the research and
really
work at it. Yeah,
we're picking roles in a lot of instances that aren't just like the big blockbuster movie. It's like we're picking things that we can sink our teeth into. And like he was talking about Sing Sing and how like the guy who he's playing, like the real life character, was on set for a lot of it. And he's like, I didn't want to like read a bunch of stuff about him, but what I did do was when I was speaking to him, it's like I wasn't intentionally doing this, but I was studying. Like I learned about him as a person. Like I saw the way his mannerisms were, and like those were the things I could take and put into the thing rather than just reading a bunch of stuff about like his thoughts. Like just seeing the way he carried himself was the things that carried over to the role, that I thought were all like super interesting.
I've come to appreciate a lot of that behind the scenes stuff, which is why I started watching like the actors on actors stuff. I've also I've never really watched it before, but like in the past like couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of Hot Ones,
which his interviews are fantastic.
Loving it.
Like, like for one, he like almost every single guest was like, "How'd you know that?" Or like, where where are you doing your research? Where are you getting your information from? But then you also have them all about halfway through having the realization of like, this is a brilliant concept because it knocks down all of the walls.
And you can watch the walls get knocked down. Like it turns from like interview to casual conversation like very quickly, and it's really
because
cool.
They're both sharing in the experience, and him even being like 400 something like episodes in or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe he's not that many, but you know what I mean. Like, eating those wings as many times as he has.
Yeah,
you still, and I can't tell how much of it's acting sometimes with him, because he always says like I mirror my guests, right? So if you're showing you're struggling, like he's gonna show you he's struggling too, to not make you feel
as
like
bad.
Vulnerable or like a pussy. Versus if it's somebody who's toughing it out, like he can power through it the same way.
One of the ones I recently watched was Jenna Ortega's, and like she was beasting through it, and like he was struggling.
Well, because like once he hits the bomb every time, he's like, this is never fun. And it's all, you're always torn, because it's always impressive the people who go through it like it's nothing, but you show up for the ones that are like really struggling with it.
Yeah.
Have you watched the Conan O'Brien one yet?
No, I need to.
It's the funniest thing. I mean, he's a psycho. Like, if you've watched any like Conan O'Brien TV shows or like his night show, like, he's crazy.
Yeah.
And he in that just goes like he's rubbing it on his face. Like, he's just like, he goes to another level.
I watched one of the Jimmy Fallon ones, and that one was fun.
Yeah, I watched his too. His was good.
Well, he's had a few, I guess, but
I thought he only did it once. No, he did it once on Hot Ones itself, but they were using Hot Ones on
the Tonight
Show.
Fun fact, I was at one of those.
Did you?
Recordings? Yeah, the one that he did with Selena Gomez and who's the dude that played Thor?
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah. We can talk about like Selena Gomez in person. Yeah,
I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I just needed to because like in person, I feel like, wow.
Yeah. No.
How was going to like a Tonight Show? Was that cool?
It was actually really cool. I would definitely do it again. Basically, it was just a situation where a friend called me and was like, "Hey, like I have an extra ticket. Somebody bailed out. You want to go?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" And we basically just did a day trip, rode out to New York, took the train in and went to the show, and then we did a few other things around the city after and drove back that night. But like the whole experience of like being at the show was like really, really cool.
Do they do multiple in a day, or are it's just that one show?
At least that day it was just that one show.
How long was it?
I can't remember because this was like a few years ago, but I can't imagine it was any longer than like maybe like an hour and a half.
How was it all very streamlined, or was there a lot of cutting?
No, it was very streamlined. Like basically everything in one take.
One of the funniest ones from Jimmy Fallon. Have you seen him with Bradley Cooper?
No.
There's because first of all, like Jimmy Fallon's like famous for breaking on Saturday Night Live and all of that. Like, it's where a lot of his like fame came from. Well, not fame. Like, he obviously got famous from just doing the show. But like the thing that people
that was one of the things that highlights him. Yeah.
And him and Bradley Cooper just did this thing. Like, I forget what they were talking about, but like Bradley Cooper could not stop breaking. Yeah. And like they both like it went to like they had to go to like commercial break, and then they came back from commercial break, and they were still just like they couldn't get through sentences together without just like losing it. That one always like stood out to me. Yeah, I just wondered with like the Hot Ones thing or anything if how much like cutting around stuff.
So like
is involved.
I mean, again, that one that I went to was all just one take, just very smoothly done. Like whatever like hiccups they may have had, like quote unquote, just kind of work through improv. And I think that comes from his time on like Saturday Night Live and like being able to work through that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was all very entertaining to watch because it just felt like one streamlined show.
I'd like to go to that. I think I'd like to go to Saturday Night Live maybe more.
Yeah.
As far as like, again, like the production side of it and like seeing like kind of behind the camera, how like actually being able to see the sets move and like how they work through stuff and like all of that on top of just being live for like the show itself, I think would be really cool.
Well, if you ever find that episode of The Tonight Show with Chris Hemsworth and Selena Gomez, you'll see me in the crowd.
Oh, you're out there?
Yeah. Huh. Funny enough, one of the sections where he calls like someone from the crowd up on stage to do like a whole sketch with him. My friend that was with me got up there. Yeah.
Really? That's sick. Yeah, that's a cool memory to have.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's pretty sick.
Did you avoid getting like?
I did not raise.
Did you
my
do
hand.
The thing in school where you like try?
I did not raise my
contact?
hand. I looked down, and then like he started walking over towards us, and I was like, please God, no! Like somebody else raised their hand.
Yeah. And your boy was like, I'll
oh, he was so for it. He was like almost lifting out of his seat, raising his hand. Like
I appreciate like that, like just being like, I'm here. I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, all for it.
That's awesome. Okay, you want to get into it?
Let's do it.
Do you have it?
I got it. Do you got it?
I'm 100%, 101% confident that I do have it. Taste.
Hey, that was
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get there, though, if you have taste, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe on the video. Thank you so much. I'll talk about this really quickly because you didn't see it. Netflix, Carry On with Taron Egerton, and what's his name? Can you give me a name, please? Arrested Development guy, Jason Bateman. There we go. As the bad guy in this. Netflix's most watched movie ever, I think.
But who's saying that? Netflix?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a stat from Netflix. I forget the viewership that it had, but I started scrolling through Twitter. Kind of a holiday action movie. I think they were making it in like honor of like a Die Hard type movie. It to me has more vibes of like Phone Booth, if you're familiar with that movie.
Colin Farrell, yeah.
Yeah, where...
Funny enough, I was just talking about that movie yesterday.
Really? So, I mean, if you like that movie, like this movie is very much in line with that movie to me more so, where it's like, Taron Egerton is a TSA agent who had gone for the police academy, didn't get in, and has just been kind of like his girlfriend has gotten promoted a couple times. She works at the airport as well. As like a manager of like the ticketing area or whatever it is. And he's just kind of done this. He's never gotten promoted. He's just kind of always done the same role for the TSA. And she's just like sees that he's not happy because he's not actually chasing after anything, like, any goals or like has any type of thing that he wants. And she wants him to go after that. And like the movie kind of sets that up. And so he goes into work that day, and it's the day before Christmas, biggest travel day of the year. And he decides to take on more responsibility, and he asks to be the people on the conveyor belt who are actually looking at the stuff in your bags or whatever. Yeah. So his friend who is supposed to be doing that job lets him take the spot, and he goes and does like the lesser job for the day. And that kind of fucks up the plans of Jason Bateman, who is trying to smuggle something onto the plane and had planned his whole operation around this other guy being the one that he was going to use stuff to hold it over him to get him to do what he wanted him to do. So now it's Taron Egerton's character. They end up getting like a small earpiece to him, and he has to wear it while like Jason Bateman's talking in his ear, telling him he's got to do all this stuff. And like you're watching him trying to like do stuff to obviously get Jason Bateman's character caught or like stop this stuff from happening, but also is being watched. I can
see the correlation with Phone Booth.
Yeah, it's very much like Phone Booth to me. But like Die Hard 2, where it's Christmas time in an airport, and
gotcha. Okay,
you've got to like do some shit. It was fun. I like Taron Egerton. This could have definitely been like a throwaway holiday movie theater movie, but it's perfectly fine that it went to Netflix. It's not like the best thing ever, but like I thought it was enjoyable. Everybody involved. Jason Bateman plays a good bad guy, especially where it's not like a physical role. It's dialogue based, and he's able to do that really, really well. So, I definitely recommend it to anybody out there. Check it out. Watch it. It's really the only thing that I can think off the top of my head I've watched this week. That was cool. New.
I'm happy you're light too, because I also am.
It's a light time of the year.
So in addition to Craven, I went to watch another movie in the theaters. I remember I told you last week I wanted to go see The Order.
Okay, yeah.
So I did make it out to see that.
With Jude Law.
Yep, that guy. Enjoyed it very much. I think it was a very well-paced, very well acted, like great performances. It's not really any bad performances. There are a couple standout ones, but overall, I think I just enjoyed the way they told the story as well.
What's the plot?
So basically the plot is there's a separatist group from the Aryan Nation that's like basically looking to radicalize.
I remember this movie now from the trailer. Okay.
And this group is called The Order, and they basically go through various acts of domestic terrorism to try and rise to power. Mm-hmm. And there's an FBI agent that notices some of the early correlations between like the different like things like bank robberies and like bombings and stuff like that, and realizes it's all the same group. So he comes to the town to try and investigate, and the lead sheriff is like, yeah, no, you don't have to worry about it. But then there's another like deputy that's like, no, I actually know exactly where it is. I can show you. And he kind of teams up with the FBI, and they go through the whole course of the investigation. And it's set in like the early 80s, and a lot of that stuff's always fun too, where they like kind of bring you into a whole time period and seeing how well that's done. Especially because I feel like when you get movies like this where they're set in like an older time period, one of the things I always look for is like I'm looking for the misstep of like technology or like, you know, cars that don't fit the time period, but they did all of that really well as well.
Yeah.
They had a lot of scenes where they were in the street too, and like they'd be driving through a street and there's tons of cars everywhere, and I'm like, damn, they really nailed that.
I like also like crime movies that aren't modern, because like it's more believable. Like there's just less to rely on from a technology standpoint.
Yeah. I think another fun thing about this is it has a really, really good balance of action and drama, which I think is kind of like my favorite when it comes to either of those genres. Is like when they're very well balanced, it kind of allows you to enjoy the movie better, I think.
And then you appreciate when you get action sequences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the action sequences don't seem mindless or pointless.
They
like,
feel earned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're all part of the story, and then the drama doesn't feel all droned out because it's broken up really well with action.
Yeah, it's definitely one I want to check out now that I remember. Like I've seen it on like the AMC app, but it just didn't pan out for me to see it yet. Yeah. But I also didn't remember what it was, but now I remember seeing the trailers and being interested in it.
Yeah. Sure. So like I said, there was a couple like standout performances for me. You know, Jude Law was pretty good, but I think the standout for me was Nicholas Hoult and Ty Sheridan.
Both are fantastic.
Yeah. Like they both were great. Journey Smollett was in it. She was like kind of like whatever, but wasn't bad. It just wasn't standout.
She didn't get cast out after Jesse.
No.
Okay. Good for her.
I think she was able to sweep that one away.
Yeah. Like she shouldn't be held accountable to the actions of her brother, but like
no, she's special agent in charge of the FBI here.
Wow,
so
good for her. Yeah, come up. Yeah. The FBI did dirty by one sibling. She gets to represent him in another.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I would say definitely go see this. This was definitely a very enjoyable movie for me. I say very enjoyable. It's about white supremacy,
but like it being taken down.
Yeah. And I mean, like it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like I think it being about white supremacy, I'll touch on this. Like I feel like a lot of those movies love to just recklessly let the N-word fly.
Mm-hmm.
You only get it once and it's not spoken.
Stone Cold Steve Austin say it?
No.
Okay. That was just the longest yard, huh?
Yeah. Okay. No, they never say the word. It's just you see it on a board at one point. They kind of stop the frame on it, and all that. But that was the only time you really get it. And so I like the fact that they were able to still kind of grasp you and like keep the suspense without really throwing around the racism. It was more so just around the domestic terrorism acts that the group was doing.
Do you think that like actors today probably push back against saying it?
I don't think so.
No? I could just see
Daniel Radcliffe seemed to have a really good time saying it.
In which movie?
Somewhere he was a skinhead, right? Was it Daniel Radcliffe? No.
Are you talking about American History X?
Maybe. I don't know. I just remember.
That's from the 90s, dude.
No. Is Daniel Radcliffe the one that played Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just remember having seen like a meme of him just saying.
So we're not even saying the movie. It's just a meme.
It is a movie,
but like we don't.
It's a clip from a movie.
Okay.
I just haven't seen the movie.
I only say this because like obviously like cancel culture is such a weird thing now that I could see actors being like, even though I'm playing a role, I'd rather just not have me on film.
I mean, it's a weird one to see because you watch it and then you're like, what does that say about you as a character, like, or as a person? Like, are you just a really good actor, or like, were you clamoring to say this?
Yeah, no, I tend like, well, I think that's why they'd be afraid to do it now, because people would just surmise like,
yeah,
like whatever they want to on the internet.
Because like another one I'm thinking of is I think it's Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah,
he said it a bunch in the show he did with Forrest Whitaker. I forget the name of it. I think it's not American Gangster, but it's something like that.
Yeah, like I could just like, I don't necessarily like, I agree with you where it's like off-putting, where it's just like, oh, we're doing a white supremacy movie, we'll just say it a million different times, and
it's like it's not needed. And this movie proves that.
But I do think that like I don't have a problem, and who am I to have a problem with it, I suppose. But like, I guess I just don't see it as like a major issue when it happens in movies, as long as the movie's doing it in a way that's like substantial to the device of what they're trying to make.
Yeah.
And also who else is involved, because I'm thinking back to like Bad Boys 2 has the word used a couple times by white people, but it's like it's on set with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, and like they're the ones telling the person to say those things. Like if they didn't want that in there, it wouldn't be in there, you know? So, but like, yeah, I think it's one of those things now where I do think that actors probably have to think a little bit about it. And at least to your point, maybe it's not about saying the word, but it's how it's used in the film. Like, is it gratuitous use of it versus
I can understand
artistic?
if it's used to add weight to like exactly like the artistic qualities of the film or whatever. But like, I just feel like this movie did it so well without it that like you still feel the hate for the hate group without them having ever said it.
I get you. So this week, we've got Mufasa, we've got Sonic.
Yeah.
Early thoughts going into these.
Mufasa, I always felt like I wasn't gonna like it. I'm still gonna watch it, but you know, I can't remember. Was it like the team that made this one that said it's definitely going to be better than the live action Lion King? Because that's where the bad taste in my mouth.
It's at least 9% better.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think one of the things that's going to save it in comparison to that is instead of just trying to completely mirror an already existing movie, they're now trying to give you an untold story. So I'm hoping at least the interest in the untold story will rope me in a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
But I just don't know how well it's going to work
in that
respect. Sonic 3, I'm fucking pumped for.
Yeah. That's definitely the one I'm looking forward to. Like, Mufasa feels like more like an obligation to see versus Sonic 3 is just something I'm interested in seeing. Yeah. And them talking about like casting like Shadow as a character that has suffered loss and like they wanted to cast an actor that could like carry that weight within like the voice acting.
Yeah.
And like finding out more about like Keanu Reeves in real life, I believe lost his wife and his kid in the same year.
Damn.
Like has like had a not easy life, you know? Has like, and I like reading that and then like recently like knowing a little bit more about his personal life. I'm like, that kind of fits with like why you would choose him, and he's just Keanu Reeves, obviously.
Yeah, because Shadow as a character is supposed to be like the misunderstood villain, depending on how you perceive him.
Yeah. So, very much looking forward to that. The return of Jim Carrey. Like we only got a number of appearances left of of Jim Carrey, and like obviously an iconic actor. So really cool to get more of him. Yeah, it's definitely the one I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely.
Let us know, though, what you're looking forward to out there. Also, let us know what you've watched. Have you seen The Order? Did you see Carry On yet? We're going to be... We, at this point, probably have already dropped our Craven the Hunter review. Check that out if you haven't yet. That's a spicy one. A lot of hot takes involved. And until next week, we bid you Pale. Adieu.
Peace.
Bang.
A skit.
For those with good taste.